kind of bounce back and forth with putting like an insert in the rear or not having an insert. Lately, we threw one in because I demoed two wheels in 2 days in the bike park. So,
By demoed, you mean demolished.
yeah. Yeah, it turns out the Whistler bike park is pretty rough.
Welcome to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. I'm Matthew Pioro, and with me is Matt Hansen. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
It's an honor. Wow, it never gets old, eh?
Nope.
On today's episode, I speak with enduro rider Kasper Woolley. Now, this Squamish rider has had spectacularly bad luck over the last, let's say, year and a bit, but he's coming back from injuries and he's on the cusp of his return to racing. So I'm really excited to be speaking to him. And it's exciting because there's this trend with Kasper Woolley that when he gets back into competing, it's not long before he's really in the mix with top results. But before my chat with Kasper Woolley, there is lots of news to run through.
How was your little trip camping there?
Yeah, I've been in the woods, so I need you to bring me up to speed there, Matt. What did I miss? It's only been a few days, but there's been so much racing.
Well, some of the Canadian junior boys had some pretty good rides at different parts in the world. Up in Abbotsford, they went 1-2, Matthew Ney and Ethan Powell, our newly crowned national champion. And over in Ireland, Hudson Lubbers, who's from Toronto, took the overall. I think he was second with a couple stages to go, and he clawed back to time bonuses. So it's an amazing ride because he's really he's on this new Ignite cycling team, and he's gone from being a pretty good local rider to winning the Junior Tour of Ireland, and his teammate was third, Caden Colling. So they killed it there.
That is interesting, and it's pretty exciting what's going on in the junior ranks. Particularly with Ignite, I know that Kevin Sims is working in the background there. Now, that might not be a name that's well known to a lot of people, but everyone will remember Michael Leonard, the young Canadian who's on Ineos. And Kevin Sims actually helped out Michael Leonard in his development and getting him some experience or working on projects that would get him to Europe. So with Sims in the background there, getting young riders to the Tour of Ireland, it's continuing that progress that Sims and also Chris Reed, who works at the Milton Velodrome a lot too on the track. So we're seeing what they've been doing and how that's developing young riders.
Wait, hold on. How long you been away for again? Did you know that a Canadian won a stage of the Tour de France?
Yes, I was in the woods, but I was completely aware of Woods. Actually, he won stage 9 of the Tour before I had gone on my little canoe trip with the family. But holy cow, I know everybody knows that because he was on the front page of newspapers for people who still get newspapers.
And I think all of us were yelling at the TV because we're like, oh, rats, he's going to get third. Oh, maybe he'll get second. There's 3K. There's no way he's going to catch him. But 3K when you're going 10 kilometers an hour or 15 kilometers an hour is a long way. So even with 1.5 to go, I think he was still 20 seconds behind. But when you're going slow on a steep ramp like that, that's a long, long way to go. I mean, I felt bad for the guy, but that was a great win for Woods. Finally.
Yeah, everyone felt bad for Matteo Jorgensen, and because he had a gap, I think of more than 2 minutes on Woods at least, and a gap on all the others, and it just crumbled. And when Woods was behind by 2:15, I thought, oh, that's really too bad. Okay, I'm gonna get on with my day. But then things quickly turned around, and I'm screaming at the television just like everybody else.
I really liked that whole thing, how they're going through this massive crowd, right? Fans everywhere screaming, yelling, flares, all that crap. And then they turn right and then nothing. 4K of just nothing. It was just like they were just doing a local ride. I thought that was kind of a neat transition.
I want to actually talk to Michael Woods about that when we can line him up for a chat because if I remember correctly, there was one time I spoke with him. It might have been about his win at the Vuelta in 2018, or maybe even another victory of his. And he kind of made a joke, a teasing joke about the contrast between racing in Europe and racing in North America. And in North America, he had some pretty big successes, like at the Tour of Utah. But he contrasted it by saying, in North America, you'll win a pretty big North American race, but it's just a bunch of people's moms at the finish line. But in Europe, it's, crowds and crowds. However, at Puy de Dôme, one of his biggest victories of his career, it's almost like he was back in North America with no one around.
I know. There's a couple of commissaires and a couple of volunteers hanging out there. Yeah, no, I thought that was funny. But, I mean, they say that you get motivated so much by all the crowds and all this stuff. So it must be kind of a strange change to go from that just absolute mayhem to nothing. And then it's all you, right? For those last 4K.
I know a lot of people were heartbroken on behalf of Matteo Jorgensen because he did such a valiant ride and just it all came crumbling down for him in the last closing bits of that climb up the Puy de Dôme. I'm wondering if Jorgensen might be a little annoyed with Canadians/Israel Premier Tech, because if you recall, when Hugo Uhl won last year a stage at the Tour, it was Jorgensen who was trying to chase him down, and Woods was just sitting on Jorgensen's wheel. Jorgensen unfortunately had a crash in a hairy corner, so he must think, for the love of Pete, these Canucks are just stacked against me here. Anyway, Matteo Jorgensen, I think, is only 24. I think there's going to be more chances for him in the future. Another thing that I found interesting with Woods' Tour de France stage win was the corrections you and I were receiving in some of our coverage. We were very clear in our headlines and in our discussion that he is Michael Woods is the third Canadian to win a Tour de France stage. And by win a Tour de France stage, we mean an individual stage, not a triple T, not a team time trial. To review, everyone, or Matt, maybe take us through the individual stage winners at the Tour.
A fellow by the name of Stephen Bauer won in 88, right?
Yep.
The first stage ever. And then we had Mr. Huhl last year take that glorious win, and then recently Michael Woods. But, of course, if you want to get technical, Swain and Ryder both took team time trial wins, which is still a win. It's just not quite the same as an individual stage.
Right. That's Swain, Tuft, and Ryder Hesjedal. Yeah, in their careers, they were part of very strong team time trial squads. There are, however, other successes at the Tour, like Days in Yellow. And, of course, the first Canadian, the first North American to wear yellow at the Tour de France is Alex Stida. But a few well-meaning readers were saying he won a stage. And he did not.
This whole phenomenon, people thinking that Alex won the stage that gave him the yellow jersey, it wasn't just a couple people. It was several people.
So, for the record, he took yellow on a stage in 1986, and he did it by virtue of time bonuses. He actually finished 5th on the stage, but the time bonuses, he was in the breakaway and he gobbled up a bunch, and so that put him in the leader's jersey. And it was back when they had split stages, so there was actually a team time trial right after that. Unfortunately, he lost yellow after that triple T, but he kept the KOM jersey for a few more days after that.
If I remember correctly, too, in the breakaway, I think he did something where he pretended he's going to go for a bathroom break or something like that, then he sprinted ahead. Like, he did some clever little thing. I remember this is also when, he famously wore a skin suit. And now, of course, everyone has speed suits and all that stuff, and it's sort of normal. But back then, Americans would wear skin suits in crits all the time. That was pretty common, 40, 50K crit. But I think all the Europeans were like, why are you wearing a skin suit in it was like 100-odd kilometer stage. They thought he was crazy, but he figured, because I'm going to solo or break away.
So just to wrap up the Stida corrections, I actually got an email from a very knowledgeable person in the field of cycling, and he CC'd Alex Stida. And then Alex responded and I responded, and Alex was, very understanding. He knew that we were talking about individual stage wins, so it was all good. And we'll be talking about Alex for sure for years to come, because, well, actually it's coming up on a big anniversary of that in 2026, so we'll probably have to revisit that year. And of course, as this episode of the podcast is coming out, we're just ahead of the Tour de France Femme, the second year of the current incarnation of the Tour de France for women. And that's shaping up to be pretty exciting, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, and we still don't have a final roster from all the teams. We do know that EF will be sending Alison Jackson in her brand new jersey, which will be fun to see. Sarah Poitevin, and of course, Magdalene Valliere. So there's at least 3 Canucks, and I'm sure there's some more. Yeah,
for sure. And everyone remember, Magdalene Valliere's Mill was on the pod last year. She did a lot of racing last year, got a lot of Grand Tour experience, including the Tour de France Femme. It's good to see her returning there.
And I presume Olivia Baril will be there as well, because she's going to be up there for the overall, we hope.
We hope. Now, she did say that to us in our last chat with her, but I don't see her name officially on the list, but things were leaning that way earlier. Who else is on the list? It looks like Simone Boilard is going to be there. You'll remember in 2018, she was third in the junior women's race at the World Championships. So it's good to see her in the mix. And Cofidis, who is having the tour of a generation, 2 stage wins for the men's team. Its women's team has Gabrielle Pilote-Fortin, and she is on the current start list. And yes, it is evolving as we are recording, so we'll see how that shakes down by the time everyone lines up for the Tour de France Femme. Of course, the big name on the list is Annemiek van Vleuten. She won the Giro again, and she is targeting her second Tour de France Femme win. And what did you call it?
A double triple.
She could get a double triple if she wraps up the Vuelta.
A lot of sugar and a lot of milk.
That is one heavy order from Timmy's, but Annemiek van Vleuten is going for it. Other big news in Canadian cycling. As this podcast is coming out, Cross Country Nationals is happening in Nova Scotia. Check out our website for updates on that. And just recently, Downhill Nationals wrapped up, and our mountain bike editor, Terry McCall, was there. He has great coverage on the website from that. I'm going to run down just a bit of what happened. Lucas Cruz, who has been on the podcast before, he won. That's his first Elite Nationals Championship win. Followed behind him is his teammate Mark Wallace, and in third was Kurt McDowell. All 3 of them were on a Norco bike, a new Norco bike that has yet to be released officially. Gracie Hemstreet, who's also on Norco, probably would have ridden that bike. I think would have ridden that bike, but she was injured in training, so did not compete. So on the women's side at DH Nationals, Bailey Goldstone took the championship jersey. In second is Amy Lan, and in third is Ainoa Iyurko. And you've probably seen video of her shredding since she was 13. Keeping with gravity, let's talk a bit more about Kasper Woolley. I really enjoyed my interview with him. He's a laid-back guy from Squamish. He came up downhill skiing, but then made the switch to enduro racing. But of course, as a person from Squamish, I think everybody just does all the sports. So of course he was mountain biking and BMXing even while he was pursuing skiing quite seriously. What impressed me a lot about Kasper Woolley is just his determination, that he's had crazy bad luck, as I mentioned, with injuries. He got smoked at a bike park, completely not his fault, but that knocked him out last year. And his discussion is super fascinating when he gets into the analysis of what sets up top enduro riders apart from the others. Soon he will be returning to racing at Cranworx, which is happening very soon as this episode is coming out. He should be at the Enduro Open, which is the Canadian Championships for Enduro. So without further ado, here is my talk with Kasper Woolley. Kasper Woolley, we're speaking in early July. You've been riding a bit lately. Tell me what those rides have been like.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Well, it started pretty slow and just kind of been slowly trying to ease back into things without getting too excited. But being off the bike for over 4 months, you don't exactly feel great at first. So, yeah.
Yeah, I want to get into that a bit because we're going to talk about injuries. I figure injuries are playing more of a role in your life right now than you'd like. But let's tackle them and then move beyond them, like I'm sure you're itching to do. So I believe what's been keeping you off the bike most recently since early March is an injury that affected your spleen. Can you tell me about the nature of that injury?
Yeah, so it was just kind of on a typical training ride with some friends. And it was in the February winter here, so nice and rainy, cold shore ride. And we were literally a minute, 30 seconds from the car. And I just kind of put my front wheel over a high speed corner and did not get the friendly bounce, as we like to call it. And just impacted the kind of the bowl of the corner just perfectly onto my side. I'm still a bit confused on how I managed to do the damage I did, because the spleen is kind of I didn't break any ribs or anything, but I damaged my spleen basically as bad as you possibly could. There's a grade 1 to 5 and I had full 5. And then to kind of add some complexity to it, they realized that I guess I was doing better than I should be doing with a grade 5. So instead of generally you would just get your spleen removed surgically, right away, like an emergency surgery. But I guess I was doing okay. So then they were like, we can try to save it and keep it in. So I just had a couple, they're not really a surgical procedure, but they go in and they basically try to stop the bleeding with a small wire, and they had to do that a couple times. And yeah, and then I just kind of started the recovery process, which is very long for a grade 5. It's 5 months.
5 months. And then how does this compare then to, let's say, some of your breaks? I'm thinking in August at a pump track, a rider going the wrong way smashed into you and you got your jaw dislocated. And I believe there was a skull fracture. Was that the case there?
Yeah, it was basically a neck fracture. It was really, both of those injuries were very abnormal, which it was also a very abnormal incident. I didn't actually crash. I just got smoked by somebody. Yeah, this one was, very different from anything I've had in the past, because I felt quite normal after about 6 weeks. Nothing was really, I guess, from a physical standpoint, I wasn't feeling I was feeling able to do basically whatever I wanted, other than the fact that I had to be careful not to fall on it again, because I was very fragile. So it's kind of a weird feeling. I guess the only thing I could compare it to would be if you had a concussion, but you had absolutely zero symptoms, which doesn't really happen.
Yeah, in the case of a concussion, there's usually nausea, being affected by light and all kinds of symptoms. You're right. But sort of more to your point, like if you had a broken bone, there might be a cast or soreness, or you might not have your full range of motion. And in this case, there was none of that. But still you had to be super careful because of the grade 5 injury to your spleen.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to go to one more item on your CV that is, I think for some listeners, they might not know about this part of your history, but at the age of 17, you discovered you had a non-cancerous prolactinoma tumor. Most people just heard me say tumor and not that other stuff. But what is the nature of this tumor and how has it affected you?
I guess depending on what you kind of do, it would, like, say I was not really into athletics, it would basically have zero or very limited effect on me, but it delayed my growth. So without really knowing until, I guess you could say, it was a bit too late to like do much about it. So like things have been catching up after like quite some time now of having things being like on a medication that sort of is able to correct things a bit. But yeah, the main sort of struggle is that I have a hard time putting on like mass and muscle mass and just like overall strength. So I end up training very hard for maybe not the same effects that you would expect.
All right, let's talk about your current team, YT Mob. The YT Mob shuttered in 2021. That incarnation was more focused on DH and freeride. Those elements are back, but so is a new dedicated enduro team. You are on the enduro squad with Jack Moyer and Christian Texter. How did you connect with YT to be part of that program?
I guess I'm going to get his title completely wrong, so sorry, JP, but basically the person who is sort of in charge of the team, I'll just put it that way, and John Philip Becker, he just approached me, and yeah, we just had a meeting, and then it kind of just went from there.
It was that simple, eh? He just approached you? Was it based on results? Like, what did he notice about your riding that made him make the call?
Honestly, I'm not totally sure. It kind of was a bit out of left field because I didn't really know anyone at YT, and it was not long after the pump track incident, so I hadn't been racing. Like I'd crashed at the first race, and then that happened like 5 weeks later, so then I was going to be out for the rest of the season.
Have you noticed any differences between your latest team and your former outfit? The YT team is centered in Germany with riders all over the world, and your previous team was the mostly US-based Yeti outfit. Can you speak to any differences?
One of the big differences we've had Fit for Racing, Johnny Thompson handles like all our training and athletic needs. He's actually like hired by the team, and that was quite a big difference.
Right. This is Fit for Racing, and can you tell me a bit more about that? Is it a separate organization that then helps with the athlete development?
Yeah.
Okay. And on your Instagram, I think around the end of May, you posted a training montage that featured, among other things, shooting, surfing, and golf. It all looked really fun, but how does all that relate to enduro riding?
Yeah, well, I guess some of them maybe don't really, but I guess a big part of training is just doing some different activities is always, gives you different stimulus for coordination and stuff, and it's always nice to do some fun things after a hard workout or something.
Mm-hmm. The surfing, had you done that before? You looked pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I have done a bit of surfing, so fairly comfortable in the wake surf. It's always fun to do that sometimes.
Have you gone surfing with Jack Moyer? Have you had a chance yet? I know he does a bit of surfing himself.
Yeah, Jack is quite the big surfer. I have not had the chance to go surfing with him yet, but hopefully we'll make that happen sooner than later.
Now, Jack has had his own challenges with injuries. Has he offered you any advice on as you've been coming back into form?
Um, Not a ton, but we talked, as you do a little bit here and there, but definitely, I guess, just knowing his story with the collarbone. He had like this long issue with his collarbone where it was not like healing and stuff. And seeing how he's like come back from that, like that was quite a long time ago now, but yeah, really had a lot of successes, obviously motivating. And there's lots of other people that have kind of done similar things. So definitely take inspiration and motivation from that. And I realized something I definitely should mention with the team differences. It just kind of struck to me now. A big thing with the YT is they're not bringing on any sponsors, like especially component sponsors on the bike. So we've been able to choose pretty much anything we want to run. There's definitely, you got to ask, and there's some bit of a boundary, but been able to customize things as we like quite a bit, which has been really nice just for some things that you wouldn't think are like a big deal, but sometimes like a stem or some grips or something like that. They're such like small items, but when you have a team sponsor and they like need you to run their stuff, like it's not that it's bad, but maybe it doesn't really work for you. And it's been nice to just be able to like just go and get the exact thing you want versus trying to make something work that's not ideal.
Well, let's get more into what you're riding right now. What is your main bike out there on the trails?
Yes, I'm riding the YT Capra size medium, and I'm actually on a mullet setup, and then I have the it's an XL mullet rear end, but it's not that long. That just makes it sound extra long. Um, it just makes it the same size as the way the 29er would be.
And what are some of the component choices that you've made that, really help you to dial your bike in?
I've gone for the Renthal Fat Bar Light aluminum. So 31.8. So like quite a forgiving handlebar. And then I am running a one-up dropper post to give me like maximum seat height, which has been good. I got the new SRAM drivetrain on there, which is the best thing.
Is it? It's all that in a bag of chips?
Yeah, it's pretty insane to be honest. And then I guess this would be a big twist for a lot of people, but like I'm pretty used to Shimano brakes because that's what I've been on in the past. So currently I'm running Shimano brakes with a SRAM drivetrain.
And how has your, say, setup evolved over time? How are your preferences changed, whether that's suspension or like tire pressure? What's your thinking or evolution there?
I guess because I've not had a ton of time on the bike this year, it feels I haven't had a lot of time to like play with things like a lot, but I've kept the tire pressure, like a lot of those kind of very like personal kind of things, like to your weight and stuff. A lot of those have stayed quite similar over the last like few years, I would say. Kind of bounce back and forth with putting like an insert in the rear or not having an insert. Lately, we threw one in because I demoed 2 wheels in 2 days in the bike park. So
By demoed, you mean demolished.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you added more squish to prevent that, ideally, from happening again?
Yeah. It turns out the Whistler bike park is pretty rough. And I found that because I hadn't ridden there for so long, I find I like get pretty good at knowing where there's just like really aggressive rocks and you should just chill out a little bit. But like, because I hadn't ridden there for so long, I'd like come over a section that used to be like completely fine. And then there'd just be like shark teeth on the other side. And that bit me a couple times already.
Earlier, you mentioned the idea of motivation, which is something I've been wondering about because injuries can definitely hinder your motivation. I know Moyer was questioning a lot of his DH career at some points when he was going through hard times with injuries. Even at the best of times, motivation can come and go. So how do you find motivation when things get tough?
I guess the main thing is I've got big goals that I want to accomplish, and I just want to keep working towards that. Sometimes when things like this happen, definitely makes it a lot harder to stay motivated. But yeah, I try to, I guess, not think about how shitty it is as much and try to just like think of it as like I'm just doing what I can to like work towards like kind of a end goal instead of thinking super short term, because that kind of just like puts you in sort of like a negative. It's easy to kind of go into like a negative spiral. But yeah, it's always easier said than done. But I've been definitely forced to learn the hard way this past like year and a bit, because really it's been the last time I actually had a number plate on my bike was in Scotland, June 2022.
So a little more than a year. And to me, it's inspiring that you seem to be keep on trucking despite the setbacks. So I gotta say, it's pretty impressive. Who has been a significant influence on your enduro career?
Oh, that's a interesting question. Because I was actually skiing up in like full-time ski racing up until 2018, and living in Squamish, pretty common that you mountain bike. So all my friends were riding like enduro style bikes. So that's what I was doing as well. And then it's kind of like, oh, like you could just go on this race. And then for like 2 or 3 years, I would just like did 1 or 2 races like in the summer. Not that I really like trained for it or anything, but I ended up starting to do quite well at it. So that is what kind of pushed me into stopping skiing and going into mountain biking.
Right. So it was more of sounds to me like it's more of an organic thing. I mean, as you mentioned, you grew up in Squamish. I feel like mountain biking, it's like by osmosis, you end up doing it in Squamish, it sounds like in your case. However, you also did BMX in the summer while you were skiing, I understand. So you had although maybe you weren't racing bikes, you were definitely on bikes a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And with the prolactinoma tumor was a big factor. With mountain biking, size is not as much of a barrier. Like you can be quite competitive with various different body types and size and stuff. It's not like a kind of one size fits all, whereas skiing was more of that. Like you definitely needed a lot of strength and a lot of power, and some height. Didn't hurt either. I didn't really have any of those. So it started to become quite difficult. And then I would say I really learned a lot and took a lot of inspiration from Richie once I kind of joined that team and was there the last couple of years, like end of 2020, 21, and then beginning of last year. Unfortunately, I didn't really. I spent a lot of last year on my own and not with the team. But
And this is Richie Rude, and did he become a bit of a mentor to you? Is that a fair assessment?
yeah, a little bit. You always it's easy to pick up on a few things that you're not doing that the best guys are doing. And yeah, for me, I was just motivated to beat him. Really, he was just always a bit faster. So,
And you did beat him.
I beat him once, but that was before I really even got on the team. So, never really got him back again.
Is there one like bit of advice or anything that you took away from being on his team, or maybe it was just watching him in a race where you're like, I see what he did there?
Yeah, I always found one thing, like the faster guys are really good, and I noticed Jack is really good at it too. They're like quite good at changing lines on the fly. So say you're like coming into a corner and the line you were planning to take is not that great and something new or better has kind of like developed. And this is all happening like as you're coming in like fast. Like you only have like split seconds to like make these decisions. They're very good at making the right decision a lot of the time. Obviously not every time, and I think that comes a bit from riding, unfortunately, like such good trails where you kind of get a bit tunnel vision because there's never really any like line choice. And you're always just, the best line is just to like stay on the trail. But then when you go over and race, especially in Europe and pretty much any of the Enduro World Cup stuff, it's quite mixed and variable. Being able to look ahead and actually like make adjustments without being slow. That's the trick. You can make those adjustments, but just like not go very fast. But to actually be able to like make these like slight adjustments and make it look like you didn't even adjust, that's like the impressive thing.
That sort of makes me want to return back to skiing and your background in downhill skiing. I'm guessing that when you started focusing more and more on mountain biking and enduro, you had a lot of speed tolerance. You're pretty comfortable going real fast. But can that speed tolerance give you maybe a false sense of confidence in early stages of your enduro career?
Yeah, I guess it sometimes could. I definitely wasn't worried about going fast, but I think most of it is just like a positive thing, because even when you're going really fast on your bike, it's still quite a bit slower than any time I was skiing. So yeah, overall, I think it just like helps, but it only goes so far because when I was skiing, I didn't have like, I'm not pinning it between two like bar width trees all the time. So it's like, even though on your bike, you're not going as fast, it still feels really fast and like things are coming at you that you're like avoiding. Whereas skiing's a bit more controlled in that sense. Like it's very repetitive.
Right. And I guess going back to that idea of line choice, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine the line choices while skiing are fewer than when you're ripping an Enduro World Cup circuit.
Yeah, skiing, it's pretty much everyone's trying to ski the same line, and it's just about staying on that one line, which is not easy. But yeah, and biking, everyone's in general on a very similar line in biking, but what you can't necessarily see on like video and stuff is that like a few inches can make quite a big difference on how much speed you'll actually like carry through a corner, let's say. And those are like the small differences that add up on a 5-minute track. Like that can add up to a lot by the bottom.
I want to ask you about a video you posted on Instagram. I think it was around February, and you are going around these cones on a gravel road. And it's kind of funny because, to me at least, because you're slaloming aggressively on a dirt road. It's just a gravel road. It almost looks like a gravity rider has taken over a pedal heads or a kid's learn to ride session. I've also seen footage of you and Finn Isles doing a similar exercise in 2020. What skills and techniques are you building on such a seemingly easy course?
Yeah, a lot of it is pressure control because on like a gravel surface, it's pretty slippery. It's not as consistent always as you would like, but it's a lot of just like learning like where your kind of boundaries are, and you can actually like feel your tires kind of like gripping and then sometimes not gripping at all. And then just kind of working on some like basic technique things like hands, elbows, knees, where your stance is. It's hard to concentrate on those things when you're on the trail because things are happening quite fast and every section is different from the one previous. So things aren't consistent, which is what's so cool about mountain biking. But yeah, sometimes it's good to just be able to like set something up that you can just repeat over and over and over again.
And so then you build this, is it muscle memory that through those regular exercises that you can then apply to all the various and evolving conditions on the trail?
Yeah, that's what ideally you hope for. It doesn't always work as well as you'd hope, but it's an easy one that you can just like set up, do it for an hour, not even, to get a bunch of reps in. You can definitely like overdo it. It's not gonna like it's not gonna fully change your riding if you're doing it every day for a couple hours, but a steady, healthy diet of it is always good.
Earlier in a conversation, you mentioned goals and the ones that motivate you. What are some of the goals that you have ahead of you?
I mean, a big one for me would be to first to get on enduro podium. After that would be to actually win a race, and getting the overall number one plate is a big goal of mine.
And what are some of the races that are coming up for you this year?
Unfortunately, the season was quite front heavy on the schedule this year. So the 5 of the 7 World Cups are already done at this point, just as the summer started. But I will be doing the Cranworx Enduro, which is our Canadian Nationals, as my kind of first race back. And then I'm going to go do a race in Montana, like the weekend after, just kind of like a national type race, just to try and get a bit more racing in. And then I'm going to do the last 2 Enduro World Cups in September.
Right. And those are at the beginning of September and then about partway through September, I believe, in France.
Yes.
What are some of the riders that have impressed you this year that you've been keeping an eye on in the Enduro World Cup?
Yeah, I think the big one would have to be Reese Werner, a close friend of mine who've grown up riding with. I was actually riding with him when I did my spleen. He's one of the people that was very helpful there, getting me out of there safely. And yeah, seeing him go second in finale, getting his first podium, and then winning, it's like, I think it was 2 weeks later, was just, yeah, awesome to see, and definitely like motivates me to try to get up there as someone that I've like raced with a lot and train with and stuff.
That makes me think of back to just the riding that you have been doing since you were a kid in Squamish. And can you maybe tell me more about the scene there and its role in developing riders? And yeah, just give me more of a picture of how that scene has been evolving.
It's definitely evolved quite a bit. When I was young, like I was quite involved in the BMX club and I was doing a lot of BMX. And then there was a whole like flip side of that, which Reese was doing, which is more fully racing cross country. That was kind of before enduro was even really a thing. And then everyone would usually ride the downhill, like Whistler Bike Park to some extent. Yeah, it's changed quite a bit now to like, I feel like the kids now just go to the bike park and just lap out the bike park pretty much. What I've noticed, the biggest thing is just having so much access to good trails here. It's kind of hard not to develop skills quite quickly. And like, there isn't really a barrier as far as like, I always hear people talking like that I race with and stuff that, oh, like my local trails they're not really that gnarly. Like I'm basically like people say they're like over biked just with their enduro bike. Whereas here, like anytime I go for a ride, I'm riding like an Enduro World Cup level trail pretty much. Like I'm definitely not feeling overgunned very often on a 170 millimeter bike. So I think that's like the biggest thing is lots of trails and lots of fairly difficult trails.
Right. You really have to up your game if you're going to ride your local trails.
Yeah, like you can pretty much find like the hardest trails in the world here if you want to.
Who are some up and coming riders in Squamish that we should be on the lookout for?
I might not even be able to answer that question. At least give an answer to anyone that isn't already killing it. I'm like at the perfect age where I like know the people that are a bit older and the people that are a bit younger. But if you'd asked me that question 4 years ago, I would have great answers. Like for example, like I just top of my head would be like Dane Jewett, Ryan Griffith. Obviously, Jackson's been not an up and comer anymore. That's for sure.
Not anymore. No.
Yeah, there's Jacob Jewett. Yeah, like all these people are like they're already killing it and winning races and doing super well, but they were up and comers not long ago. I'm excited to see kind of the wave underneath that group because I don't really know actually who that is. I'm sure they're around and it'll be exciting to learn their names and see what they're all about.
And I think that it'll be in no time just based on the vibrancy of that scene.
Definitely. Like I'm sure by within 2 years, be like a group of 5 to 10 kids at least that are pushing because those kids are looking up to the kids I just named. And the scene, I guess to touch on the question with like the scene and stuff, the mountain bike scene was quite new and fresh when I was growing up here. But like now, like the kids that are like 6, 7, 8 years old, like they have access to really good bikes. A lot of the parents that live here and people that are moving here are moving because of the mountain biking. And that's just kind of like breeding mountain bikers, if that makes sense.
It totally does. And I think, yeah, we've crossed a threshold where there are the parents, like maybe this wasn't the case 30 years ago when, mountain biking was so new and you didn't have that guidance as, the mountain bikers were pioneering the sport. Now you have parents who have ridden lots and then can impart that knowledge to their kids. And then there's also just more instruction and just because of the evolution of the discipline.
Yeah, exactly.
What advice would you give to an aspiring enduro rider?
Pretty much just ride your bike a lot and don't be afraid to ride things that aren't that much fun, or maybe not that aren't that much fun, but that challenge you. Because I see a lot of people kind of shy away from riding challenging things, but then they don't learn how to like make those work. Because it's easy to just ride trails that make you feel like you're the best rider in the world here. And then you go to the races overseas and you're thinking to yourself, I don't actually know how to ride. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I'm constantly like trying to do on a weekly basis. So doesn't really stop. But I just see a lot of kids like spend a lot of time at the bike park, or they do A-line laps all day, which is awesome. And there definitely needs to be a steady diet of having tons of fun and riding good stuff. But you need to have, I think, a bit of a balance, or you're going to be shocked when you go to race your first World Cups and stuff.
Well, Kasper Woolley, thank you for this time today. Thank you for sharing your stories, and good luck as the season, which is, I guess, soon, but you must be chomping at the bit to get riding again. But good luck as your season truly kicks off very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And that's the episode. It is edited by me, Matthew Piaro. I had help from Matt Hansen. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
I also had help from mountain bike editor Terry McCall. He helped me shape my questions with Kasper Woolley and gave me some great background. Terry has, of course, interviewed Kasper before on the website. For great Canadian mountain bike info, check out Canadian MTB. Terry is at the helm there, and he is rocking it. This episode is produced by Adam Killick. And what else does Adam do for us there, Matt?
He also does the music.
You say that with such conviction.
Well, you tell me that. I don't know. I've never actually seen him doing the music, but I presume someone does the music.
Oh, I've seen his setup. It's impressive. He's got speakers and a synth, and it's wired into his computer, and he makes us both sound as good as he possibly can. We're really giving him some heavy lifting to do. Thank you, Adam. Also, thanks to Ontario Creates for its support. I gotta go watch some racing. So it's been lovely chatting with you, Matt, but I gotta go. There's just so much going on.
Samesies.
Samesies.
Do people still say samesies? I hope so.
No.
No, that's over?
No. So we're gonna go watch races and maybe ride our bikes a bit. Ooh, I have a gravel bike that's in a box, and I won't tell you what the brand is, but it makes me think of a Guess Who hit single. I'm assuming it was a hit single. It's a very popular Guess Who song. Maybe if I remember this bit, I will reveal the gravel bike next episode. Ha 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 ha. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for listening. Tell a friend about the podcast. Please subscribe. Get your friend to subscribe. Ride safely, and we'll talk to you later.